flash came from the trees while they were sitting by the fire. At first Owen thought it was lightning, just one quick white blink between the pines. But there was no thunder, no storm, no clouds moving across the moon. Just the dark wood around their campsite, the low crackle of the fire, and the three of them sitting in a clearing they had picked because it was supposed to be quiet. Owen looked up from the fire pit. "Did you see that?" His girlfriend Tessa turned toward the tree line. "See what?" Their friend Miles was leaning back against a log, half asleep inside his hoodie. Another flash went off. White, sharp, low to the ground. This time all three of them saw it. It came from a tree about 30 yards away. Tessa sat up straight. "Is someone taking pictures?" Owen grabbed his flashlight and stood. Miles immediately said, "Don't go over there." But Owen was already uneasy, and sitting still felt worse. They were camping in Hollow Creek Forest, a public wilderness area 2 hours from the nearest city. It wasn't a campground with RVs and bathrooms. It was primitive camping. You hiked in, found a legal clearing, packed out what you brought, and hoped you remembered where the trail was in the morning. They had arrived before sunset. No one else was parked at the trailhead. No voices on the trail. No smoke from other camps. No fresh footprints except theirs. At least that was what they thought. Owen walked toward the tree line with the flashlight raised. The beam slid over pine trunks, wet leaves and thick brush. Then it caught a black rectangle strapped to a tree. A trail camera. It was mounted about waist-height, angled directly at their campsite. Owen stopped. Tessa came up behind him and whispered, "Please tell me that belongs to the park." Miles stayed a few feet back. The park doesn't aim cameras at people's tents. The camera's small red light blinked once, recording. Owen stepped closer and saw the strap was new. The bark underneath was still rough, not worn like it had been there for months. A strip of black tape covered the brand name. On the side, written in silver markup, were 3 initials. O.T. Owen felt his throat tighten. Owen. Tessa. Miles. Tessa saw it too and backed away so fast she nearly tripped. "That wasn't there when we set up," she said. Owen wanted to agree, but he couldn't be sure. They had arrived tired. They had been focused on the fire, the tent, the food bag, the dark coming in too fast. Maybe the camera had been watching them the whole time. Miles said, "Take the card out." Owen looked at him. "What?" "The memory card. If someone's recording us, take it." Tessa shook her head. "No, we leave. Right now." Owen looked back toward the campsite. Their tent was 20 yards away. Their packs were beside the log. Their food bag was hanging from a low branch near the fire. The trail back to the car was nearly 4 miles through dark woods, and none of them were experienced enough to hike it at night without getting turned around. Owen opened the camera case. Inside was a small SD card. He pulled it out. The second he did, something moved in the brush behind them. Not an animal. Too slow. Too controlled. All 3 of them turned. Owen's flashlight shook across the trees. Nothing. Then a voice from the darkness whispered, "Put it back." Tessa screamed. Miles grabbed Owen's arm. They ran. Not far. Just back to the fire where the light made them feel less exposed. Owen threw more wood on until the flames jumped high. Tessa was crying now, trying to call 911 even though her phone had no service. Miles paced in a tight circle with his pocket knife open. Owen looked at the SD card in his hand. It felt wrong to keep it. It felt worse to put it back. Miles said, "We need to see what's on it." Tessa stared at him. "Are you insane? If there's someone out there, we need to know." Owen had brought a small camera for hiking photos. It had a screen and an SD slot. His hands were shaking as he pushed the card in. For a second, the screen stayed black. Then the first image appeared. Their campsite. From earlier that evening. Owen setting up the tent. Tessa crouched by the fire pit. Miles hanging the food bag. The timestamp said 6:42 p.m. The next photo was 7:15. The three of them eating dinner. Then 8:03. Owen and Tessa sitting by the fire. Then 8:47. Miles walking into the woods to use the bathroom. Miles leaned closer. Keep going. The next image made him step back. It showed Miles from behind walking between the trees. The camera angle was different. Not from the tree facing the campsite. This photo had been taken from deeper in the woods. Another camera. Tessa whispered there's more than one. Owen kept clicking. 9:12. A photo of their tent. 9:40. A photo of Tessa zipping her jacket. 10:05. A photo of Owen standing near the fire. Then 10:31. Their tent again. Only this time someone was standing beside it. A man. Tall. Thin. Wearing a rain jacket and dark pants. His face was turned away, but he was close enough to touch the fabric. Owen stopped clicking. No one spoke. The timestamp was from 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes ago all three of them had been at the fire. The man had been behind them. At the tent. Tessa backed away from the screen. No, we're leaving. Miles grabbed his pack. Owen clicked one more time before he could stop himself. The next photo was their fire. Taken from the opposite side of the clearing. All three of them were visible. Owen standing. Tessa crying. Miles holding the knife. The timestamp was current. 10:52 p.m. It had been taken seconds ago. The flash came again. From behind them. Everyone turned. Another trail camera blinked from a tree near the creek. Then another flash to the left. Then another behind the tent. The clearing lit up in broken white bursts. They were surrounded by cameras. And whoever owned them knew they had found the card. A voice called from the woods. Not a shout. Not angry. Calm. You shouldn't look at things that aren't yours. Owen grabbed Tessa's hand. Miles pointed toward the trail. Move. They left the tent. Left the cooler. Left half their gear. They took only the packs closest to them and headed for the trail marker at the edge of the clearing. The blue ribbon they had tied earlier to remember the way back was gone. In its place was a strip of black tape wrapped around the tree. On it, written in silver marker, were the same three initials. O.T.M. Miles whispered they changed the marker. Tessa said which way. Owen didn't know. The trail looked different in the dark. Every gap between trees looked like a path. Every branch seemed to lean toward them. Behind them the fire popped. Then something landed in it. A rock. Then another. Then another. Someone was throwing stones from the dark. Not to hit them. To push them. Owen chose the path that looked widest and pulled Tessa with him. They moved quickly, not fully running because the ground was uneven and wet. Miles stayed behind them, turning every few seconds with his flashlight and knife. The flashes continued in the distance. Camera after camera. Blinking between trees. Documenting them. Tracking them. After 10 minutes they reached the creek. That was wrong. The creek was supposed to be behind their campsite, not ahead of them. Owen stopped and unfolded the paper map. His hand shook too much to read it. Tess pointed across the creek. On the far bank the wooden sign was nailed to a tree. It looked old, but the letters were fresh. Keep smiling. Under the sign a trail camera was pointed at them. The flash went off. Tessa screamed at it to stop. From somewhere upstream the voice answered, "We already got the scared ones." Miles stepped in front of her. How many people are out there? No one's. Then a whistle came from the right. Another answered from the left. Then one behind them. Owen realized they were not being hunted by one person. There were several. Maybe more than several. And they knew the woods. They followed the creek downstream because Owen remembered crossing a wooden bridge on the hike in. If they could find the bridge, they could find the main trail. The creek was thick with moss. Tessa slipped once and scraped her knee on a rock. Owen helped her up, and when he turned, Miles was staring at something in the mud. Footprints. Bare feet. Fresh. Several sets. All moving in the same direction they were. Miles whispered, "They're ahead of us too." Then Owen's camera beat. The screen lit up in his hand. A new image had appeared. That made no sense. The SD card was still inside the camera, but it had no connection. No Wi-Fi. No signal. The photo showed them standing at the creek. Right now. Taken from above. Owen slowly raised his flashlight. High in a tree strapped to a branch was another camera. Beside it, someone was crouched on a wooden platform. A person. Washing. The figure dropped silently from the tree and landed on the far bank. Tessa screamed and ran. Owen and Miles followed. The woods exploded with movement. Leaves crushed under feet. Branches snapped. Whistles cut through the dark. They were not being quietly guided anymore. They were being chased. Owen kept hold of Tessa's hand and pulled her through the brush. Miles ran behind them, breathing hard. A flashlight beam swept across Owen's shoulder. Then another hit Tessa's face. Left, Miles shouted. They cut through a tight wall of pines and burst into a small clearing. For 1 second, Owen thought they had circled back to camp. There was a tent, a fire pit, packs beside a log. But the tent wasn't theirs. It was older, brown, covered in dirt. Around the clearing, dozens of trail cameras were strapped to trees, all pointed inward. In the center, on a folding chair, sat a plastic storage box. Tessa was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Miles said, "Don't touch anything." But Owen saw something on top of the box. Printed photos. He stepped close enough to see them. People sleeping in tents. People cooking. People changing clothes near trees. People looking scared. Hikers. Campers. Families. All taken by trail cameras. Then Owen saw a photo of himself, taken that afternoon in the parking lot. He was pulling his backpack from the trunk. Tessa was beside him. Miles was checking his phone. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "New set." Owen dropped it. A voice behind them said, "You found the archive." Miles spun around with the knife. 3 adults stood at the edge of the clearing. 2 men and 1 woman, all barefoot, all wearing dark rain jackets. One held a flashlight. One held a roll of black tape. The woman held Owen's missing blue trail ribbon. She smiled and said she was supposed to stay by the fire. Miles lunged at the closest man. Owen did not see if the knife hit. He grabbed Tessa and ran through the only open gap in the trees. Behind them, Miles shouted once. Then Owen heard him running too. Good. They were still together. The ground dropped sharply. They slid down a hill, crashed through wet leaves, and landed in a shallow ditch. At the bottom was a gravel service road. A real one. Owen almost laughed. Then headlights appeared around the bend. A white pickup truck. It slowed when the driver saw them. An older man leaned out the window. "What the hell happened to you?" Owen ran to him. "Please, there are people in the woods." The man looked past them into the trees. His face changed. "Get in, now." They piled into the truck bed because there was no room in the cab. As the truck pulled away, Owen looked back. At the edge of the woods, the three people stood watching. Behind them, tiny red camera lights blinked on one by one, like eyes. The man drove them straight to the ranger station. Police entered the forest before sunrise. They found Owen's campsite. The fire was out. The tent was gone. Not collapsed. Gone. Every stake, every gourd, every footprint around it had been brushed away. They found the creek sign. They found the second clearing. They found the plastic storage box. But it was empty now. No photos. No cameras. No archive. Only one thing remained. A single trail camera strapped to a tree facing the clearing. Inside was a memory card. On it was one video. Owen, Tessa and Miles sitting by the fire earlier that night. Laughing. Talking. Not knowing they were being watched. Then the camera shifted. Someone picked it up and carried it closer. The video moved through the trees around the tent behind the logs. Then it stopped just a few feet behind Tessa's back. In the video, the man whispered, "They still don't see us." The police said it was probably a group of illegal campers were hunted. Maybe thieves. Maybe people living off-grid and scaring hikers away. But they knew that wasn't right. Thieves don't build an archive. Hunters don't label people as sets. Campers don't follow you with cameras just to take your tent before sunrise. Hollow Creek Forest closed for 3 months. When it reopened, new signs were posted at the trailhead. No overnight camping. Report suspicious cameras. Stay on marked trails. Owen never went back. Tessa stopped hiking completely. Miles still refuses to sleep in a tent. But 2 weeks after the investigation, Owen received an envelope with no return address. Inside was one photograph. It showed him standing at his apartment mailbox opening the envelope. Taken from across the street. On the back, in silver marker, were 4 words. Still part of IT. Owen moved 3 days later. He changed his number, deleted every hiking app, threw away his camera, but he still checks the trees whenever he walks outside at night. Because the worst part was not being watched in the woods. It was realizing the people watching did not stay there. And if you ever see a flash from the trees while sitting by a campfire, would you go look for the camera? Or leave before it takes your picture?